Peace, love, and light. Oh, 1 second. Hello? Yeah, this is what's up? Yeah, that email. What? That's your school email? Cause I tried, it wouldn't go. It didn't go through. Yep, I emailed everybody that was there today. I sent them all them books that I shared today. So I need your personal email. That wouldn't let me send it. I guess for some reason, maybe your job won't allow you to take those emails. I don't know, but I need your personal email if that's okay. Yep, I'll be here until like the end of March. Yep, then I'll be going to Sacramento. Yeah, I know. Right. Peace. I'm just letting a couple people tap in, so just give me a hot second. Let me pull something up. Let me pull something up. I got my Blue Lotus, and I want to thank my brother from Ghana for sending me those Blue Lotus seeds. The tea is amazing. I also crushed the herbs up. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I share everything. I share all these herbs with people that a lot of people may not have heard of. But for me, I love Blue Lotus, especially as a tea. It's the bomb. But with that being said, 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm just okay. You gotta log on, bro. Okay. Okay. All right. Give me 1 more second. I'm waiting for one more person to log on my other stream. So just be patient with your brother. I'm waiting for one more person to log on. Yeah, we on all those. Okay. Why you talking about the table when I'm the table? All right. First, I want to say peace, love, light, illumination, and all that good stuff. I want to send positive vibrations out here. And what I am, just like all other people, I'm a 5%er. And when I say 5%er, I should use it in this context. It's 85% of the people of the world that's dumb and blind. It's 10% of the world that know the truth. I call those gatekeepers in our community. Negro gatekeepers, Masons, and you know, and then it's 5% of individuals in the world that know the truth, that'll speak the truth, regardless if it fill a room up or clear it out. So when I use the analogy of I'm a lion, I'm willing to stand up when no one else will. Because I base my understanding on truth. And the truth will make you free. is nothing hidden. It's nothing hidden. If you think that, you're lost. If you think the Bible is some white man's book, you're lost. You're clearly lost because you don't understand analogy, parable, symbology. You don't understand esoteric and exoteric. You don't understand all the magic in the Bible because you've been taught all the literal stuff and not the science of the biblical scriptures. When I tell people you do need to be initiated, not taking an oath, I'm initiated. Just like when you go through academia and all these things, right? So when you go through basketball or sports, if you play JV, then you go to varsity, then you go to college, then you go pro, that's a form of initiation. The initiation of wisdom and understanding being the best in your craft. Remember, God, man, don't take an oath. That goes against scripture. That goes against everything. We're under the order of Melchizedek. And that's why these things are took out the Bible. You will hear a regular person, we don't know what Melchizedek consists of. Well, Yahshua was under the order of Melchizedek. And the Bible tell you we don't take no oath. But then the Bible tell you brotherhood is like sweet oil going down from your head to your beard to your shirt. For all my Christian brothers and sisters, Jesus, Yahshua, whatever name you want to give it, was under the order, the brotherhood of Melchizedek. These are just biblical truths. And that's why certain books was took out the Bible. I've lectured this on college campuses. I have my master's degree from Grand Canyon University in first century history and religion. So I'm not only just an expert witness, I'm an expert in my field. And I'm willing to, and I can speak on these things when I speak on peer-reviewed scholarly research. And all scholars agree no matter what hue they are. That's why I'm able to teach. I come from a place of understanding. I don't come from a place of what some man said or some orthodox stuff. I'm not orthodox. I tell everyone I'm a Sufi. I'm Tasawwuf. I don't believe in nothing outside of myself. Anything outside of myself is true shirk. If you understand the Bible and the Quran, then you know those. I don't have a problem with nobody doing 5 salats. I don't. But I do the al salat. And if you read your hadiths, you know what I'm saying. If not, I'm not going to have no debate with no one that's operating under a belief system, because you can believe in whatever you want. But when it comes down to scholarship, you're going to have to sit on your hands. When it comes down to the scholarship that I deliver in these fields, you will have to sit on your hands. And you can just say you basing this on what you believe, not from origin, not historical. And it should be no debate. And that's the difference when I tell my brothers and sisters, education and wisdom is not common in our community. Religion is. People arguing over fictitious things. And when I talk about the origin of these things, the origin, it all comes from something else. When I talk about the museum, you hear how I'm pronunciating it. The museum was the place where scholars at, where the common people, they made sure these experts, Sufis, Tasawwuf, medicine men, whatever name you want to call it, senseis, they stayed in a particular, like a big library with rooms and everything. And that was their specific thing that they did. And we brought the message back to the people in the museum. And that was for the scholars, the holy men, to where this is what they did all day. This is our life. This is what we go to academia for. This is what we live for. Why? To be experts in our craft. This is all I tell people. I say, man, it's nothing to debate. I won't even allow that energy to come my way. Everything comes from a source. And so today I had the pleasure with my mother, because I'm back in my city of Michigan, Flint, Michigan. And I did a little speaking. My mother came from a perspective. She talked about Carter G. Woodson. And my mother is, one of the smartest people I know, and my dad. But my mother is an artist. I'm going to share a lot of her work with y'all. But a lot of the things that I know and a lot of what my parents know, because I was homeschooled as well. And so a lot of these things adults don't even know. So I can't blame the children when they have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. But the beauty of that is when I talk about these things, they almost turn into like a deer in the headlights, almost like hurt, because they're like, why no one teaching us this? Why no one is teaching us this? The babies don't know about Carter G. Woodson, Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Amos Wilson, Sheikh Anta Diop. I'm just naming a small few. And then I gave everybody the books I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared. I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared. Hold on, I'm gonna grab these two history books. Hold on. All right. And so, as I was saying, bringing information to people and not being gatekeepers, it's nothing new under the sun. All I can do in academia, I have to give credit to the original source. So when you're doing advanced studies, you have to write in APA format. If anybody on here, educated professors, you know what APA format is. And you have to understand how to do annotated bibliographies. But not only, right now, they have a system called the Turnitin system. When you're doing research, you have to submit it to this computer check. And the computer check lets you know where they got all the information from. So it'll say you got 10% plagiarism from here. This information came here. This information came from there, right? So once it's spit it back out to you, now you have the opportunity. You must put it in your own words, reference it right, X, Y, Z. And so I'm saying all this is because when I say I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared, I didn't say I was the originator. If I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared some for my brothers and sisters, that means it came from a source. And if it's divinely prepared, I'm giving credit. Now, and in a lot of my other books, I'll reference, like say if I do a quote, because I gathered and compiled almost 20 books. So when I do a quote, I give credit to the original thought or the original author. So, but when I was speaking to the kids, well, actually to the parents, I was asking them about a famous scientist. And one of the books that I was going over today with the kids, because it was a beautiful day, some of them knew about Benjamin Banneker. But when I started speaking about all these people in these books that I gathered a long time ago, they like, well, why we don't know this? That's why I'm like, oh, I got to keep going. I met so many ladies. It was only ladies because there wasn't no men there. Well, actually, it was a man there with his wife because he volunteered, and it was another brother. But the rest was women and a couple older lady volunteers. One of the older ladies remembered me when I was the assistant minister at one of the Baptist churches. I told you I have a full background, and I spoke like this from way back then. You can research me. You'll be like, oh, he was always on fire from day one. You're like, oh, ain't nothing changed. I just elevated and got my own and moved from Flint, Michigan to Arizona. That's all. Ain't nothing changed. I just added value to myself. And I was willing to step out on my own. I was willing to say, you know what? You can't change people because that's not my mission. But it's people that know my voice. And I have to, if I'm love and I'm peace, I got to go where the love and the peace is. And so that's what I did. And the Creator has allowed me to do that. The Creator has allowed me to travel all over, go places. I have over 60 brothers in all different areas. I'm able to go to the prisons. I'm able to come back home in my city of Flint, Michigan, and talk to the kids. I'm able to go back to my alma mater and lecture and speak. Man, come on, man, that's a privilege. So, in this book that I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared, it's called The 14 Famous Asiatic Scientists in History. And I was just, one of the great figures was Benjamin Banneker. And I'll just give a highlight. A lot of us may have heard of Benjamin Banneker, but you know, he was an African-American astronaut, mathematician, author, who constructed America's first functional clock. And when I show you some other documents in history that you'll be like, what? If I show y'all some stuff that all the European Masons know, and I tell y'all it's little, if I show y'all this, it'll blow your mind. So don't let me forget, I'm gonna grab it. You're gonna be like, wow. Because I tell y'all, all this stuff to me is just a schoolmaster. This is not high science, with all due respect. These are just small keys. With all due respect, these are just small keys. But Benjamin Banneker was a free man in Maryland on November 9th, 1731, a land-owning farmer of modest means. Banneker nevertheless lived a life of unusual achievement. In 1751, Banneker borrowed a pocket watch from a well-to-do neighbor. He took it apart, studied it, all the workings, all the fixings. He made a drawing of each component, then reassembled the watch and returned it. Now listen, I'm gonna show you a document of how a certain area is all constructed off of this. Blow your mind, and I'm gonna show you this in signs and symbols, but I'm gonna show you right in your face. Fully functioning to its owner, and from his drawings, Banneker then produced to carve out of wood and enlarge replicas of each part. I don't wanna go too further with it. Y'all know who Banneker is. But then Charles Drew, 1904 to April 1950, American physician, surgeon, and medical researcher, known as the inventor of the blood bank. Charles Drew was an African-American surgeon who pioneered methods of storing blood plasma for transfusion and organized the first large-scale blood bank in the U.S. Who was Charles Drew? Charles Drew was born June 3rd, 1904 in Washington, D.C. He was an American African physician, right? Developed ways to process and store that blood. Look at, pioneer African medical researcher, Dr. Charles Drew made something groundbreaking discoveries in the storage and processing of that blood, doing these transfusions, And he also managed two of the largest blood banks during World War II. This brother. Drew, he grew up in Washington, D.C. as the oldest son of a carpet layer. In his youth, Drew showed great athletic talent. He won several medals for swimming in his elementary years and later branched out to football, basketball, and other sports. After graduating from Dunbar High School in 1922, Drew went to Amherst College on a sports scholarship, and there he distinguished himself on track and football. His education, he completed his bachelor's degree at Amherst in 1926, but didn't have enough money to pursue his dream of attending medical school. He worked as a biology instructor and a coach for Morgan's College, now Morgan State University, in Baltimore for 2 years. In 1928, he applied to medical school and enrolled at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. And at that university, Professor Drew quickly proved to be a top student. He won a prize in neuroanatomy and was a member of the Alpha Omega Alpha, a medical honor society. He graduated in 1933, and Drew was second in his class and earned both a doctorate of medicine and a master's of surgery degree. He did his internship and residency at the Royal Victoria Hospital and the Montreal General Hospital, XYZ. He did a lot. I don't want to go too far. I'm just showing you what these kids was like, wow, they never heard about this. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, African American, another physician who performed the first prototype open heart surgery. Daniel Hale Williams was one of the first physicians to perform open heart surgery in the United States and founded a hospital with an interracial staff. See, I want to keep going on and on and on. I just want to highlight these brothers and sisters. Emmett Chappell, another African American scientist and researcher, and a recipient of the 14 U.S. patents, who discovered that a particular combination of chemicals caused all living organisms to emit light. From 1950 to 1954, he served as an instructor of biochemistry at Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee. And from 1955 to 59, he was a research associate at Stanford University. Then Chappell joined the Research Institution in Baltimore, a division of Martin Marietta Corporation, which was famous for designing airplanes and spacecrafts. There, Chappell discovered that even one-cell plants, such as algae, which are lightweight and can be transported easily, can convert carbon dioxide to oxygen. This discovery helped to create a safe food supply for astronauts. Chappell went to work at Hazelnut Laboratories in 1963 as a biochemist. And in 1966, he joined the National Aeronautics and Space Administration at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, as a research chemist, and later became a remote sensing scientist studying natural systems to improve environmental management. Chappell retired from NASA in 2001, and some of Chappell's most interesting work was in the area of how can I say it? Luminance, if you know what luminance is, which is light without heat. Isn't that amazing? While designing instruments for Mars Viking spacecraft, he became interested in bioluminescence, which is warm light produced by living organisms. Chappell used two chemicals from fireflies, which give off light. When mixed with this chemical or this adenosine triphosphate, an energy storage compound found in all living cells, brothers and sisters. And this could provide a method of what? Detecting life on Mars. Chappell proved that the number of bacteria in water can be measured by the amount of light given off by the bacteria. He also showed that satellites can monitor luminance levels to monitor crops, grow rates, water conditions, and harvest timing. Emmett Chappell married his high school sweetheart, XYZ, you know. Then we go to Ernest Everett Just, another African-American biologist. Look at all these biologists and scientists we had in these times where no one know about. Why you don't know about it? Why the so-called professors at these universities don't teach the kids this? Because it's there. Because they have a thing called program learning. They have a thing called the reading list. I already challenged academia, and I graduated with honors. You can hear a pin drop. I already challenged academia, already. Graduated with honors. So nothing nobody can say. You can say you don't like how I look. I don't care. I know what subjective and objective mean. So you do think I care? I'm just being funny. How the heck? Oh, but anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. But Ernest Everett Just, he was also a biologist, academic, and science writer. Just primary legacy in his recognition of the fundamental role of the cell surface in the development of organisms, and in his work within marine biology and pathogen S's, he advocated the study of whole cells under normal conditions. Look at all these brothers, man. And he was in a fraternity. He was an Omega Psi Phi. When I do the history of all this, man, like when I show things, I show things for people for you can see the eye. I love the brain. I love the brain. That's why I say it. But I'm also a truth teller as well. And I deal with both planes. And that's what a lot of people don't have. You don't have something to compare to. Everything is jammed down your throat. And when I give you something to compare to, then that's when the light bulb moment come on. That's when you become illuminated. But in 1911, Ernest Just and 3 Howard students, Edgar Amos Love, Oscar James Cooper, and Frank Coleman, established the Omega Psi Phi fraternity on that campus of Howard University. Love, Cooper, and Coleman had approached Just about establishing the first black fraternity on that campus. Howard's faculty and administration initially opposed the idea of establishing the fraternity, fearing that it could pose a political threat to Howard's white administration. However, Just worked to mediate the controversial, and despite the initial doubt, Omega Psi Phi Alpha Chapter was established on Howard's campus on December 15, 1911. You know, when he graduated from Dartmouth, Just faced the same problems as all black college graduates of his time. No matter how brilliant they were or how high were their grades, it was almost impossible for blacks to become faculty members at these white colleges and universities. It just took what seemed to be the best choice available to him and accept a teaching position at a historically black Howard University in Washington, D.C. in 1907. Just first beginning teaching rhetoric and English, field somewhat removed from his specialty. And in 1909, he was teaching not only English, but also biology. In 1910, he was put in charge of a newly formed biology department by Howard's president, Wilbur P. Thurkill. And in 1912, he became head of the new department of zoology, a position he held until his death in 1941. You see? And not long after beginning his appointment at Howard, Just was introduced to Frank R. Lilly, the head of the Department of Zoology at the University of Chicago. And Lilly, who was also director of the Marine Biology Laboratory, acronym MBL, at Woods Hole, Massachusetts, invited Just to spend the summer there in 1909 as his research assistant. And during that time and later, Just experiments focused mainly on eggs of marine invertebrates. He investigated the fertilization reactions and the breeding habits of species, you know? And for the next 20 years or so, Just spent every summer but one at the facility. So all these great figures in history, Garrett Morgan, another African-American inventor who made both the first traffic signal invention and the first patent gas mask. He was awarded winning African inventor and community leader of African-American descent. Morgan invented an early version of a gas mask called a smoke hood and created the first traffic light that included a third warning, posting which is standard today. And Morgan also developed a chemical that was used in the hair products for hair straightening. And most of his teenage years were spent working as a handyman for a Cincinnati landowner. And like many other African-American children growing up in the turn of the century, Morgan had to quit school at a young age in order to work full time. Morgan was privileged enough to hire a tutor and continue his studies while working in Cincinnati. And in 1895, he moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where he began repairing sewing machines for a clothing manufacturer. This experience with repairing sewing machines was the impetus for Morgan's interest in how things work, meaning it sparked something, meaning the light bulb came on. And his first invention developed during this time. It was a belt fastener for sewing machines. And throughout this period of time, before his first patent in 1912, he was slowly building his reputation in Cleveland for his skill at fixing everything. And in 1907, Morgan was nearly a decade of experience with machines and finally opened up his own sewing machine and shoe shop repair. And in 1908, Morgan became more conscious of his heritage and helped found the Cleveland Association of Colored Men. And in 1909, he and his wife Mary Ann expanded their business ventures by opening a shop called Morgan's Cut Rate Ladies Clothing Store. And the shop had 32 employees, and they made coats, suits, dresses, and other clothing. And around 1910, his interest in repairing other people's inventions waned, and he became interested in developing some of his own. He was the subject of a newspaper feature in Cleveland, Ohio, for a heroic rescue in 1910 of workers trapped within a water intake tunnel 50 feet, 15 meters beneath the Lake Erie. He performed his rescue using a hood fashioned to protect his eyes from the smoke and featuring a series of air tubes that hung near the ground to draw clean air beneath the rising smoke. And this enabled Morgan to lengthen his ability to endure in the, how can I say, inhospitable conditions of a smoke-filled room. And Morgan is also credited at the first African American in Cleveland to own an automobile. So that smoke hood was completed circa 1912, and he received his patent for it that year later. And the successful invention of the smoke hood, it launched the National Safety Device Company in 1914. It is unknown if the smoke hood brought him any commercial success. No sales figures have been found, but his use of guerrilla marketing, that's a business style. And when you take in business classes, we talk about guerrilla marketing, going to different venues and demonstrating his smoke hood, by strapping it on and entering a smoke-filled teepee, and certainly demonstrated his faith in his own invention. And in 1913, he incorporated hair care products into his growing list of patents and launched the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, which sold hair care products, including his patent hair straightening cream, a hair coloring, and a hair straightening comb invented by Morgan. And later in life, he developed glaucoma, and by 1943, was functionally blind. So he got poor health and all that, he passed, just like, blah, blah, blah. But I'll give y'all a couple more. Well, y'all know George Washington Carver. Everybody should know Carver. Scientist, inventor, best known for the many uses he devised for the peanut. He was born into slavery, and he went out to become a botanist and one of the most prominent scientists and inventors of his time, as well as a teacher at Tuskegee Institution. Carver devised over 100 products using one major crop, which is the peanut, including dyes, plastics, gasoline. Carver's work at the helm of the Tuskegee Institute, our agriculture department, included groundbreaking research on plant biology. I don't want to stay too far in that. We got James West, James West. He was an inventor who developed the mic in the 1960s. He holds 47 U.S. and more than 200 foreign patents on microphones and techniques for making polymer foil electrics. James West is a U.S. inventor, professor in 1962. It's like a electransducer. It's a technology later used in 90% of contemporary microphones. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just giving a little tipsy, because there's a lot more. Oh, now let me get into my sisters. Mae Jamison. She was born October 17th, 1956. I bet a lot of our kids didn't know this. She was an American physician and NASA astronaut, known for being the first, what they want to say, black woman to travel in space. Macy Jemison is the first African American female astronaut. In 1992, she flew into space aboard the Endeavour, becoming the first, you know, to fly in space. She is an American astronaut and physician, you know. She earned a PhD in chemistry. She best known for being the first woman to receive a PhD in chemistry in the United States. You hear me? Do y'all hear me? Come on, man. After graduating from Hunter College, an all-girls institution in New York, she attended Queens College, choosing to live at home. She graduated with honors in 1942. And to get around the fact that she didn't have much money for graduate school, she landed work as a lab assistant at her old college, as well as a hard-earned fellowship. You know, she received her PhD at Columbia. She worked daily. She, worked in the lab. So all these beautiful things and historical things that our empress has done and our nobles in history. Norbert Rilix, inventor, engineer. Now, he was a brother from Louisiana. He spoke French and Creole very fluently. French and Creole. He's noted for the invention of the multiple effects evaporator, an energy efficient means of evaporating water. And this invention was an important development in the growth of sugar industry. Rilux was a cousin of the painter Edgar Degas. That was his cousin. He was born in a prominent Creole family in New Orleans, Louisiana. He was the son of Vincent Rilux, a white plantation owner. A free person of color. A free person of color. When I lecture on the Amazighians, it's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, yeah, we always were the people, y'all. We are Amazighians. They were always free people. We always gave ourselves names. So I always try to, let me get this. I always try to teach people this from scholarship. Not from hate, but from scholarship. You know? But he had access to education and privileges. You know? So all this is in my book. We got Patricia Bath, another misnomer African American to complete a residency in ophthalmology, the first woman to chair in that residency program in the United States, the first African American female doctor to secure a medical patent. She also founded the American Institute for Prevention of Blindness. Come on, man. She attended medical school at Howard University and completed a fellowship in ophthalmology, at Columbia University. She invented the surgical tool that made her famous, the Lasco probe. It's like a thing that you can look down inside things. You know, on movies you see a probe and it be going down the throat and all that stuff. Yeah. And this tool was used during eye surgery to correct cataracts, an eye condition that clouds vision and can lead to blindness. You got to get inside and see. And cataracts usually affect older people. Bath laser tool was more precise, less invasive, less risky than previous devices, and has been used around the world. Percy Lavin Julian, he was born 1899, Montgomery, Alabama. You know, he attended school through the 8th grade, but then it wasn't no schools open to misnomer blacks then. Percy Lavin attended DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana. The college had limited slots for African Americans. You know, he was denied fellowship, for racial reasons. And so he had to do other things, So instead, Julian considered undertaking his own research. He investigated obtaining soybean oil from the Gildan Company in Chicago in 1936, and intended to use the oil as the starting point to synthesize human steroidal sex hormones. And this was a field he was interested in, you know, because his wife was suffering from infertility, you know. But in 1940, Julian started working on synthesizing estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and soybean oil using a foam technique, which that he had devised and patented. He worked, he worked enabled industrial scale production of these hormones, and the results economics of scale drove down the cost of many drugs. Look at all these great works these brothers and sisters did. In 1953, Julian founded his own research firm, Julian Laboratories, Inc., which specialized in the production of synthetic cortisone. You know, he was the first black chemist elected to the National Academy of Science in 1973. And in 1990, he was elected to the National Inventors Hall of Fame. And in 1999, his synthesis of cystogemin was recognized by the American Chemical Society as one of the top 25 achievements in the history of American chemistry. Professor Samuel Massey Jr., an organic chemist who was the first African American to teach at the U.S. Naval Academy. Samuel Proctor Massey Jr. overcame racial barriers to become one of America's greatest chemists in research and teaching. As a doctoral candidate during World War II, he worked on the Manhattan Project with Henry Gilman at Iowa State University in the development of uranium isotopes for the atomic bomb. And in 1966, the U.S. Naval Academy appointed him as the first black faculty member. His research over 50 years led to the development of drugs to treat mental illnesses, malaria, meningitis, gonorrhea, herpes, and cancer. Chemical and Engineering News in 1998 named him one of the top 75 chemists of all time, along with Mary Curie, linguist Pauling, George Washington Carver, and the DNA pioneers James Watson and Francis Crick. Yeah. So that was just in one of the books that I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared that I shared with the youth. Let me see. I want to see. Did I grab the other one? I ain't even grabbed the other one. I thought I did. Let me go grab it, because since it's Misnomer Black History, I just want to share that. One second. Grab the wrong one. For this one too. Yeah. But I got so much. I have to look at my bag. But I got another book, and it's highlighting a lot of the scholars and a lot of the historical people in history. But I've authored like vegan cookbooks to show you how to make all different type of dishes, you know, all different type of stuff. And I got so many dishes because I cook as well. I do all type of stuff. Like I got recipes to show you how to make your vegan cookies, the chocolate chip cookies, all vegan. You know, you know, a chocolate cake, my chocolate cake. I got the recipes, all this stuff for you, man. You know, with all the ingredients, how to make it. Chocolate chip vegan cheesecake with chocolate. I got all the ingredients on here. You can make it right at the crib from scratch. Boom. You know? Just showing a little bit of the diversity that we do here. Vegan chocolate, these vegan chocolate cupcakes with buttercream pink. They're so good. I'm telling you. So good. But just showing some of the dishes that I just like to share things, you know, and leave a mark on the world with people that's into what I'm into. Here go the vegan Italian cream cake with cream cheese frosting. Yep. I'm gonna make some for y'all one day. Here go the peanut butter fudge bars. Now these are delicious. Delicious. But yeah, I got a lot of, you know, different dishes in there. You know what I'm saying? But back to the topic. Oh, I do have it. Duh. I'm looking right at it. So this is another book, a little small one that I gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared for a lot of that I shared with the kids today, of a lot of scholars in history. And I went and printed them all. The adults, I sent it to their email. But, you know, I went to Office Max and Staples, had some printed, my Mufti's printed some, but I had to get so much done, I just had to get it done real fast. But I'm gonna pass all these out to a lot of the adults because I got them all printed. But I sent them to all the adults' email. And in this little small, gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared piece of wisdom, I highlight Ivan Van Sertima. I'm giving 10 misnomer black scholars who debunk Eurocentric propaganda. And so the first one I'm highlighting is Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. You know, he studied at Rutgers University in New York. He was best known for his work, They Came Before Columbus, which provided a pyramid of evidence to support the idea that the ancient Africans were master shipbuilders who sailed from Africa to the Americas thousands of years before the Spanish explorer Christopher Columbus, and that the Africans traded with the indigenous people, leaving lasting influences on their culture. In one example, Van Sertima presented evidence that Emperor Abubakar of Mali used these almadis, or the longboats, to make a trip to the Americas during the 1300s. Van Sertima methodically demonstrated that these blacks were not slaves, but traders and priests who were honored and venerated by the Native Americans, who built statues, the Olmecs, in their honor. And in the closing of the book, he declaimed the notion of discovery by Columbus. In 1987, Van Sertima testified before a United States Congressional Committee to oppose recognition of the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' discovery of the Americas. He said, "You cannot really conceive of how insulting it is to the Native Americans to be told that they were discovered." And when people try to discredit this, then I come with all the European scholars that said the same thing. We're talking about scholarship. I have one of my professors when I was breaking down the Anglo-Saxon dictionary, and I say, don't get mad at me because I know how white is spelled in an Anglo-Saxon dictionary. So I'm not arguing with no one. When I talk about Bertram Thomas, when I talk about Vladimir Dale, you know, when I talk about David McRitchie, when I talk about George G.M. James, you know, all these are European scholars that's going to agree with what I'm talking about. Albert Churchward, you know, Dr. Frances Krauss Wilson, you know, psychiatrist, practicing in Washington, D.C. She noted for authoring the Crest theory of color confrontation and the ISIS papers, the keys to colors, which explore and define the global systematic of white supremacy. Now, for me, as a scholar and educator, if she was in the flesh and we have a conversation, because I'll never debate my people. If you ever watch Tony Brown's journals, brothers wasn't debating. But when you talk about supremacy, that means it's something powerful over you. And it ain't nothing powerful over me. I ain't never been no slave in history. My family, I don't have that. I don't take that. So it ain't nothing supremacy over me. And so when I explain things, I have to explain it from an understanding. You know? But I get it. You know? And in the ISIS papers, Welsing contradicts that the notion that white supremacy was rooted in the idea of genetic superiority. Instead, she presented a psychogenetic theory suggesting whites fear genetic annihilation because their genes are recessive to the majority of the world's population, which consists of people of color, and the most threatening being black. Therefore, they established white supremacy to prevent people of color from diluting their genes and subsequently rendering them extinct. You know, you got Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan, you know, also known as Dr. Ben, Ethiopian Puerto Rican writer, historian, Egyptologist. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering at the University of Puerto Rico, earned his master's degree in agriculture engineering from the University of Havana in Cuba. He received his doctoral degrees in cultural anthropology and Moorish history from the University of Havana and the University of Havana at the University of Barcelona, Spain, respectively. Dr. Ben is authored 49 books, primarily on ancient Nile Valley civilization and their impact on Western cultures. One of Ben's most thought-provoking works, African Origins of Major Western Religions, in 1970. It highlights how the roots of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam originated in Black Africa. He also argues that the original Jews were from Ethiopia and were blacks. He talked about the Igbos and the Igbos. I got the books and the whole history with the Europeans going there proving it. And then I show you the Moorish Zionist Jews of the Moorish Zionist temple. And then I show you Ab Allah, who, when a lot of my European people, they talk about Neville Goddard was learned, and his teacher was Ab Allah, the Ethiopian rabbi. Research what I'm telling you. Dr. Anthony Martin, a Trinidadian-born professor, studied at Wellesley College in Massachusetts. He was a lecturer and prolific author of scholarly articles about Black history and was considered the world's foremost authority on Jamaican Black nationalists. Leader Marcus Garvey. Martin authored, compiled, or edited 14 books, his earliest work being Race First, the ideological and organizational struggles of Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. In his works on Garvey, Martin used his scholarship to counteract attempts by the mainstream to mischaracterize and deny Garvey's true legacy as one of the greatest Black leaders of all time. And when Martin detailed the role European Jews played in the transatlantic slave trade in his book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, the professor found himself the subject of a character assassination campaign, which is ongoing even after his death. Then we have the great Chancellor Williams, historian, writer, best known for his book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, The Greatest Issues of a Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD, for which he was also awarded honors by the Black Academy of Arts and Letters. In Destruction of Black Civilization, Williams chronicles how high civilization began in Black Africa, contrary to what mainstream historians has exposed to the world. He meticulously lays out the history of Africa in the great detail and demonstrates that the continent's current underdevelopment came after thousands of years of consistent onslaught by Eurasians and not because Africans made no significant contributions to the world. So then when I talk about stolen legacy, for all my, no disrespect, brothers in fraternities that say they Greek gods, I hear you. You know, Greek mythology ain't nothing but watered down Egyptian history, point blank. And he was well regarded in history as the author from Georgetown, Ghana. He's best known for his work in 1954, Stolen Legacy, in which he presented evidence that Greek philosophy originated in ancient Egypt. He gained his doctorate degree at Columbia University in New York, became a professor of logic and Greek at Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina, for 2 years, and then taught at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Of course, I told y'all my brother Sheikh Anta Diop, pioneering techniques of scientific research, such as carbon dating as a means of dating artifacts and remains, and the melanin dosage test, which he used to verify the melanin content of Egyptian mummies. Forensic investigator later adopted this technique to determine the racial identity of badly burned accident victims. Sheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar, Senegal, is named after him. Laymen and scholars alike will welcome the publication of his one-volume African Origins of Civilization, which have profoundly influenced thinking about Africa around the world. It was largely because of this works that at the World Festival of Arts held in Dakar in 1966, Dr. Diop shared with the late W.E.B. Du Bois an award as the writer who had exerted the greatest influence on Negro thought in the 20th century. Then we have the great doctor, John Henry Clark. That's my mom's favorite. It was a Pan-Africanist writer, historian, professor, a pioneer in the establishment of Africana studies in the professional institutions and academia. Started in the late 60s, he was a professor of African world history, and in 1969, he became the founding chairman of the Department of Black and Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College of the City University of New York. He also was the Carter G. Woodson Distinguished Visiting Professor of African History at Cornell University's African Studies and Research Center. He challenged the mostly white academic historians, just like I have, with all due respect, and attributed their reluctance to acknowledge the historical contributions of Black people as a part of the systematic and racist suppression and distortion of African history. But now, I can say that's not really true. Why? Because all us Black scholars that you hear me talking about already named just as many European scholars that written this. I ain't even share all the lectures that I have, all the professors speaking like this, all of the professors that speak just like me, all the professors. I got one professor, he talking about the boats, the Moors, everything. He like, I don't know what these people talking about. He like, this is just real American history. Like, what are people talking about? They're like, we in academia, we know this. And this is what I be telling people. I was like, dude, what are y'all arguing about? You're looking stupid. We the Moors or the MUR, all that crazy stuff. Dr. Marbia Ani, anthropologist, a sister. Here she go, a sister. Look at the sister. Look at the sister. You know? Scholar, best known for her book, Yoruga. And all these books I'm talking about, I have in my library. I convert everything to ebooks. And so for a lot of college students and things that I deal with, I download a whole bunch of books on tablets, and they just give me a donation form, or some buy them, or a lot I give away. But this is part of my business, you know? The comprehensive critique of European thought and culture. She completed her Bachelor's of Arts degree at the University of Chicago, holds master's and doctorate degrees in anthropology from graduate faculty of the New School University. And in her groundbreaking work, Yoruga African-Centered Critique of European Cultural Thought and Behavior. Then you got Dr. Amos Wilson, caseworker, psychological counselor, you know, supervising probation officers, and training administrator in New York City Department of Juvenile Justice. He was also an assistant professor of psychology at the City University of New York. In his book, Black on Black Violence, The Psychodynamic of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination, Wilson discredited the pervasive myth that blacks are inherently criminals. Not only did he chronicle the vast history of violence that was pervasive in American culture, but he also demonstrated how black on black violence and black male criminality in the United States was a politically and economically engineered process designed to maintain the subservience and relative powerlessness of black people and black communities worldwide. However, Wilson contended that bringing an end to black on black violence and criminality is the sole responsibility of all black people. And in his book, he lays out practical and theoretical ways of eradicating these things. And that's just in another one of my books. And so a lot of things I was sharing about why a lot of historical things and why a lot of, how can I say, information we don't have, because a lot of people are not going to share it. The stuff I'm talking about when I say they study you to a T. So a lot of books that I'll be speaking on, you will go on Amazon and you will be like, why these books cost so much? And so when I show y'all, when I be on the college campus, when I be lecturing and stuff, and a college student be able to donate and get these books, this book is $1,000 on Amazon. And so when I be speaking, they have their phone up, they have Amazon up, they like, yeah. One student raised his hand, he was like, but it's only paper, Sheik. I said, yes. He said, why would somebody be stupid enough to go on Amazon and buy something for $1,000 and you have it? He was like, I thought you would want the wisdom. And I print it and buying everything. This is just a copy for myself, but I print and buying the page in color if you want it. But people be like, they don't care, they want the wisdom. And I'll be like, exactly. Some people want it in color. A lot of people I deal with, they only get PDF from me or ebooks because they download everything on their tablet. So they don't travel with books. But they have me print them as they want them, and I'll just ship it to them. Or I say go locally and get into Office Max or Staples. But a lot of people I deal with, they support what I do, so all I can do is say thank you. But that book is $1,000 on Amazon. I also was showing them this book, Russian Icons, and they were like, what's that? And I said, well, in here, these are all the plates, all the plates of the archangels and all that. It's a couple of black and white plates, but the majority of the book, all the plates, is copper colored. These are Russian icons. Russian icons. And this book, is in all academia, in Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge. It's called Russian Icons. It's one on Amazon. Don't be cheap and get the one for $100 some, and then you get it, and it ain't nothing but pages, and then I laugh at you. Get it from your brother. You can get it from me. You can get the PDF exactly from me. And see, when I be printing the books, you see, I'll be having all the original books. You see, this was checked out in '87. And this comes from the college library. And they got all the plates in there. All highlighted, got all the plates. It's called Russian Icons by Vladimir Ivanov. With all the plates. Peace. All the plates in there. So I'm not telling you what to believe or what to do or what to say. I'm just showing you things so you can compare and contrast and you can ask questions. So you can see. And then I show you what was in Europe in the museum over there. When I show you the Templars, and you'll be like, well, this goes with the biblical scripture. And I said, yeah, they got this over there in England. They got all this stuff over there in the museum. They looking at it. A lot of this stuff is being personal museums, everything. They have it. With all due respect. All this stuff is I went to a Greek fest at a Catholic church in Arizona, and behind my professor, you know, with a priest there, and behind like it's a curtain, they got all this stuff. And then they got a whole silver and gold like room with the chair and all that stuff with the so-called 12 disciples in gold. I'm gonna show you all the picture. They wouldn't let me take pictures, but they let me take pictures when I first came in of the pictures that were whitewashed a little bit and the nose was straightened up more. And that's an art style. If my mother wouldn't sleep, I'll ask her because my mother is an artist. I just wanted to show y'all these plates. And all of them got the name of the plate, everything and all it. And who they are and everything. Like I tell people, I said, I ain't here to argue with you, but I said, I know you don't know what you talk about from scholarship and having access to information, you know, with all due respect to everyone. But most of our brothers and sisters, we haven't had the access to have access to libraries and lectures and, you know, get our hands on information and not only get our hands on it, but share it with our people. Instead of trying to charge people thousands of dollars for things. No. And everything I talk about, I lectured on it. And I make it available. Like this right here. This is $1,000 on Amazon. I don't know nobody that'll buy this from Amazon. And this is the stuff Bobby Hemmett be talking about. If you watch one of Bobby Hemmett lectures, you can pause it. A lot of these books is on the back around. His whole library I have, with all respect. I got Carter G. Woodson whole library. I got a lot of our scholars' whole libraries. And this is $1,000. Why would it be $1,000? Why would this be $1,000 some paper on Amazon? It's a reason. It's a reason. This one right here by Sharice McIntyre, I think it went down, but at one point, this book was like $1,000. But they play with the prices. I'm telling you, and I know when the market like it's probably getting ready to go up again, but this book was $1,000 and probably went all the way down cheap. Like, and it's another book called not Russian Icons, but Tavistock Institution of Human Engineering by John Coleman. I think the book went down cheaper now, but the book is gonna go up again. So I'm just letting everybody know I have access to it. And so another piece of history I'll also share, this was the last one, was the real Indian is the Negro, AKA the Blackamoor. And I always tell people, you need your hands on this document. This document right here will blow your mind. And when I'll be looking at my brothers from the nation and all this stuff, I love them when they be saying they elders and they got this and that and the other. And then I say, okay, if you an elder, listen to what I'm saying. It says, written and sent to all students in the ministry of Islam in the wilderness of North America by Elijah Muhammad, servant of Allah, dated 4/2/1936 and January 18th, 1963. So that means this was passed out in 36 and 63. You know, I'm showing you at the bottom, you can read it yourself. For you CIA making no stuff up, I always like to show proof. Because when people come to me with that person said, I'm gonna be like, okay. I'm gonna be like, okay, I said, we deal with it lawfully, let's deal with the facts. Because I can go all the way deeper. I can take it all the way deeper, and all a person can have to do is just really be quiet, with all due respect. You know? When you can come with the evidence, when people say this is not that, and then I'll give an analogy. When a person say, well, no, we don't know where this person come from, and this ain't that figure, with all due respect. When a lot of my Muslim brothers, I love all of them, when they say that individual is not Fard Muhammad and all this and the other, but then the other ones say that is Fard Muhammad. Okay, David Fard, whatever you want to say. Okay, but then I have periodicals and documents, because I did this research a long time ago. That's why I don't get into no argument with no religious person or no person in no Islam. I don't care if you have a degree and all this. People be like, you should debate Dr. this. No, I'm not debating no one because they know what I know. It'll be a waste of time. They'll be coming from religion, and I'm not Orthodox. They'll be always trying to, and I'll just say, well, what is the Nabatan Library? Then you'll be done. And I'll say, you telling me this is not a lot of ancient Jewish texts? You would be done. You know, you would be done. You'll be cooked. And so when people say, well, this is not this figure, this is not that figure, I say, okay, are you sure? Yes, and we say that person ain't him. I say, okay, well, let's blow the picture all the way up. Let's blow the picture all the way up, because I always deal with the facts of the matter. And I always tell people to do this. I say, when you blow the picture up, if that ain't the so-called Fire Muhammad, well, who is the brother next to him? And if you say that is who I'm telling you it is, and that ain't the person that you say that I'm saying it is, then we got a problem. Watch this. With all due respect, let me show you something. Let me show my brothers and sisters something. I'm gonna blow something up for you. So when you see this picture, when most people get a glance to see this picture, you never saw the brother next to him. The picture was always zoomed in, you know, with the three individuals. They zoomed the brother out. They zoomed the brother out on the end. So now, when you come with the facts, because I always say, it's always evidence. When people say they don't know this, they don't know that. Okay, so if that ain't David Fire Muhammad in that picture, who that brother is? Because I know who the brother is. That's Ugan Ali. So if you say that's Ugan Ali, what Ugan Ali sitting next to them for, and you blow the picture and act like he wasn't next to him. And then when you see what Ugan Ali and what that individual got charged for in Detroit and what was going on, with all due respect. Because I know what's going on at that time. When I talk about the Watchers, when I talk about that Jehovah's Witness, when I talk about the Rudolph stuff, I'm like, a lot of this stuff sounds familiar. When I start showing people stuff and I say, these people was around each other all these times, when people talk about like the little red book, with all due respect, that was supposed to be given to the Negro, the North America, the Muslim in North America, y'all know the red book. I'm paraphrasing. And the world is the square miles of this and the square miles of that. Well, all that come from the world almanacs during that time. And it can't be valid today. Why? Because everything changed. With all due respect. With all due respect. And when you're dealing with scholarship, academia, all you can do is agree. It ain't nothing else we can argue about. If we can go in periodicals and look up these things and research these things, the first thing certain people try to do is discredit it. Oh, you can't trust them. I said, dude, see, well then, but you got a degree in scholarship, so you had to do research, did you? So now you're contradicting yourself, and then they have to sit on their hands. I said, dude, so you're a walking contradiction. How? Because you're debating, and you say you're debating a scholarship, but then when we're dealing with the evidence that anybody can get and have access to, and now you still want to go against the research. You want to go against what we can prove. Well, you're doing the same thing that the other man doing. You see? We got to deal with the facts, man. You see how easy that is? Can't be mad at your brother. All you can do is be like, yep. And when you have access to this, and when you go through this, you really. When I talk about the Jesuit letters, what you mean, Sheik? Negroes are the original Indians. Proof in the Jesuit letters. The book African and Native Americans by Jack Forbes paint a very different picture of history than what most of us were taught about the origins of black people in the Western Hemisphere. We were taught that black people came from Africa as slaves, that the Red Indian was the true Native American, and that white people took black slaves from Africa and stole the land of the Red Indians. This story is nothing but a giant fiction, a novel made up, no disrespect, by white historians to deceive the masses about the original history and people of America. Jack Forbes used the letters of the Jesuit missionaries to prove that Negroes or black Moors, M-O-O-R-S, were the first Americans, and in fact, were the black and olive tone people found in the Western Hemisphere. commenting from the Jesuit letters on the appearance of the Native Americans. Forbes states, and I quote, for an example, in 1519, it was said of the Brazilian. Oh wait, you ain't gonna know Spanish. Let me read it in English. I'm sorry. Well, let me go. Okay. What he told him, he was like that. It is they are not black or white, but of olive color, aka copper color races. So when you get in the 1828 Webster Dictionary, you're going to look up what an American is. So take your time right now. You got your smartphone, look up what an American is. The American you're going to see is going to say copper color races, found here by the Europeans. How can you find something that's already here? When I was saying this to these parents, they jaw dropping out their mouth today. I'm trying to tell you. All parents gave me their email. I gave all the parents everything I'm talking about. I gave it to them for free. They are trying to donate money to me. I said, no. I said, I want y'all to have this because y'all kids go to this school. I said, this is my gift to y'all. I was with my mom. I'm telling you, it was amazing. They're like, how can you do all this? People will be trying to, I said, because this is what I did. This is what I went to academia for. I'm a source. I'm a library. I'm a walking encyclopedia. I'm your brother. I'm an adept. I'm a scholar. I'm an educator. All these scholars that I'm talking about that I reference, Sheikh Anta Diop, Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, Bobby Hemmett, I'm him. With all due respect. With all due respect. And see, with us, we try to eliminate and we only want one. But when the other people, the European, they have hundreds. So then you can't compete. Why? Because you want to be the only goofball. When you look at the Catholic churches and all that, it don't just be one priest. Retire those, fire those. When you're dealing with martial arts, when you look at the Buddhist monk, it ain't just one goddamn teacher there. Duh. But the same writer remarked that the Brazilian canoemen he saw were so black that they could have been taken from the sailors on the Sea of the Styx in hell. The author continues his comments on the appearance of the natives in America from the Jesuit letters. And in 1524, the Carolina coast people were said to be of dark color, not much unlike the Ethiopians. And the Nation of Islam had this in the 30s and the 60s. So when people be coming to me, I'll be looking at you side-eyed. And I just showed y'all the picture of who? Ugan Ali. When people be acting like they don't know what the heck I'm talking about. When they only show you a small picture. When they try to zoom it in, and I say, okay, you playing with the wrong person. And then I say, who is this brother, Brother Bay? Then I ask him, who is that brother next to him? Oh, what you mean? That's Ugan Ali. That's Ugan Ali. So what did they get? What happened? Now we start digging in things. And then you think that book he's showing them is some Quran. And I'm telling you, I know it ain't. It's the Watcher's book. I'm telling you what I'm telling you. When I start showing you stuff, you'll be like, this stuff sound the same. Yes. This spaceship stuff, it sounds just like this Jehovah's Witness stuff. Yeah. I'm trying to tell you. I don't care how mad a person want to be. It's like, dude, you coming from anger and you coming from a place of a belief. The term Negro and Indios were used interchangeably to describe the natives in the journals of the early missionaries who could not have possibly been referring to Africans. From 1549 through 1565, the letters of the Jesuit missionaries in Brazil, usually addressed to their colleagues in Portugal or Spain, frequently refers to the Americans as Negroes. In April of 1549, Manuel de Nobrega, the leader of the Jesuits, addressed a letter from Baja and Sima Rodrigues in Lisbon, in which he refers to the Portuguese in Brazil as living in sin because they're having many negras and lots of children by the said black women. Thus, the Jesuits further called the American women living with the Portuguese men negras, a term, according to Leith, could not have denoted people from Africa because in 1549, there were few or no African women in Bahia. Nonetheless, Nobrega used the word Indio. And when Africans are referred to in the Jesuit letters, they are always called Negros de Ghana, blacks of Ghana, and distinguish them from Negros de Terra, blacks of the land or Americans. So when people be coming with the cap, I say, man, you're not coming from historical. It's cap. It's a joke. And I call them all agents. And all they're going to do is when the trumpet be blown is look stupid because you're guilty. I'm just being honest. Why? Of false teachings. You guilty. Anybody that look like and they profess things and you don't agree with what I'm saying from scholarship, you guilty. And you're going to be brought up with charges. Especially the brothers that took an oath. I be coming from with love. I'm telling you. Because you're going to have to stand up for everything. No disrespect. When you research Steve Coakley and see how all the lecture, the Greek is a fraud. You see how a lot of our brothers, they the ones that took the oath not to tell the truth. And I live in Arizona. I told y'all, most of my teachings is in academia with people that know me for what I'm doing. I never had a problem going to the colleges lecturing with different demographics. I rarely go to misnumbered black universities or dealing with the schools with the people because most of those Negroes are gatekeepers and they in fraternities and they know I'm gonna come teach the truth. With all due respect. So I have to go where? To those houses. We talk about this stuff. We supposed to build our own. And the people supposed to help build the institution. And everybody get a taxes and receipt. This is too simple. And so, like I tell people, I'm just glad what I'm doing and I'm accepted, and I'm just continue to do my farewell journey, to be honest, to be transparent, I'm just doing my farewell tour. I don't know when it's going to end, but it's going to end because I must move on if my people is not accepting it. If I'm not making the same impact as the charlatans, I must move on. With all due respect, especially if people don't share it. I tell you, every day I get emails from other people, not none of my people. Something is wrong. Something is wrong with the psychosis of that. And it's very debilitating, but hey, it is what it is, family. But a very interesting letter is one prepared by Dos Ninos de Caligo de Jesus, that is the younger American studying in the school of Tapanyaba, Montigua. And what he said is by a Jesuit that may represent the first letter written by Americans in a European language from Brazil. He said, in it, they refer to the American leader, El Grillos, as a Negro, and to the other natives as Negroes. We find, for example, El Grillo, who is a Negro very well known and feared amongst them, and that El Grillo es Negro muy grave. El Grillo was at the same time an Indian pagan and a friend of the Portuguese. In August 1552, Nobrega wrote from South America to Lisbon, Portugal, referring to the native people as Negroes. In May 1554, Antonio Vasquez from Porto Seguro wrote to the Jesuits of Coimbra that, and I quote, that he was preaching to the Americans called Negroes. He also referred to the Negroes and Los Malucos de la Tierra as pupils. And the editor notes that by Negroes and Negras, he meant Indios or Indias. And the history, as recorded by their own white hand, bears witness that the black people are the indigenous and first Americans stemming from the intercourse of Vespucci and Columbus with indigenous black in Central America, Amura. And the use above of Mamelucos, M-A-M-A-L-U-C-O-S, to describe the Negroes, which steams back to Kara al-Queen, Arabic word, Mameluc, also shows the indigenous Moorish presence in the Americas. And this history spanned from the first encounters of Europeans with our ancestors to establishment of the United States of America and the Revolutionary War period. I'm telling you. Watch, I'm gonna show you this. at this picture that's housed somewhere. I'm gonna tell you what this all about. When I tell y'all, our own people out here playing. Do not sit up here and say no white man is doing that. You a lie and ain't no truth in you. I'm telling you. And don't put that on a lot of the colleagues that I have because they truth tellers. I'm telling y'all, European Masons are not liars. If you're not, they ain't going around teaching you everything, but why they gonna lie and they'll tell you, and I'm telling you out of my mouth, that they'll tell you that they a son of a Muslim. So if they tell you that they're a son of a Muslim, then clearly, come on, brothers and sisters. So the Dutch artist Jan Verslet painted these paintings of the so-called Mohawk chiefs who visited London in 1710. The paintings were housed in Kingston Palace, Kingston, which is an area in Philadelphia, named after the palace head. The original name, Shaka Maxim, Shaka Amexum, meaning the black spiritual priest of God, and Shakum or Shaka Sum, the original name of the Mohawks in Kanaka, which resembles Canaan. Israel, Phoenicians, the center picture in that picture is chief of the Creek Confederacy, Tamachichi, and members of his nation in England, 1736, having intercourse with James Oglethorpe. Then he was the proprietor of the colony of Georgia. Research what your brother telling you, man. The language of the Indians, AKA the Negroes, Algonquian, Algonquin, and Arabic are essentially the same languages, which goes back to the Metanether hieroglyphics. I'm telling you. The Nanacoke Moors, or the Lanu people, the Lanu or the Lenape equals the Nanacoke Moors. The chief tribe of the Wabanaki Confederation of Moors was the Delaware of Lanu, Lenabe. And that's why, Moors be out here playing all this. I say, man, y'all out here set tripping. Like we did with scholarship, we not no ignorant people. Were they black people? Are African Americans the descendants of those Moors? Okay, well, William Penn, eyewitness account of the Lenape Nanaco Moors, the first detailed description of the Delawares in a letter from William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in 1683. He wrote, and I quote, "For their persons, they are generally tall, straight, well-built, and of singular proportion. They tread strongly and clever, and mostly walk with a lofty chin, of complexion black, but by design, black as the gypsies in England. They grease themselves with bear fat clarified, and using no defense against the sun or weather. Their skin must be swarty pie, aka Black Pete of the Netherlands, swarty, just like brunette is a color. Just like when they had Jesus on the cross, they had a indigo. Come on, man. We got to stop we got to stop playing. Just like when I did with Peter Moon, the Montauk Mystery, and I show you certain different people in there, and they call them the blue people. Well, you know why? Because you so black, you blue. And they try to say, oh, they're the turban, dye, milk. Man, I don't want to hear that dumb mess. Research William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in 1683. They always take statues and change the history to throw you off the breadcrumbs. Remember what I'm saying, man. Remember what I'm saying. Remember, listen to this. Okay, I got a little bit more time. Listen to this. Now, remember I told y'all about Lewis and Clark, right? People are like, what you mean Lewis and Clark? Yeah, Lewis and Clark. Well, the United States, allegedly for the purpose of exploring the unknown territory from the western edge of the colonies to the Pacific, the true intention was to spy on the indigenous black people who were in the Americas prior to the European invasion and colonization. Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark of the United States, Lewis and Clark. Army used a black man named York, who was also the son of Yusuf bin Ali, along with a native woman named Sinoni Sacagawea, found on the manila edition of the dollar with her son, John Baptiste, carbonal to their interpreters as they gather intelligence. And in the book, Return of the Ancient Ones, Empress Terra Verdis Washita reports, and I quote, Lewis and Clark documented everything in sight, the weather, the plants, the rocks, the minerals found, the people, by tribe, by habits, by color, by warlike activities, and was documented a bushy-headed tribe who did not like the red man or the white man, the black bushy-headed Washitas. Now please explain why history did not make us aware of this important fact. It was because they went to spy on the Washitas, a people that had good old United States had signed to be their protectors over their rights, their lands, and their property. John Silby reports in Lewis and Clark documents, and I quote, Choctaw, there are rambling hunting parties of them to be met with all over Louisiana. They are at war with the Cawdees and like by neither the red nor the white people. This was on April 5th, 1805. And I'm gonna show y'all pictures. They be having this stuff and they be having this stuff in their private libraries, and people act like they don't know what I be talking about. And I'm like, dude, you own religion. I told you I'm not Orthodox. I told you I'm Sufi. I told you I'm Tasawwuf. I have a clear understanding. I'm under the triple rose. I don't have no problem with nobody, but I understand. But you're not gonna come and say you speak in scholarship. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. But to the right is Makash and another chief with an Arabic Hebrew name, Makasha, or Ma'ashik, means the one with man horns. And the painting shows, and it represents their chiefdom, their status. And his father were recorded to have been in 18 battles with the United States and never lost one. He and his father were allies of Black Hawk, or Makata Shemika. He traveled with his father to Washington, D.C. in 1824 to meet with President John Quincy Adams. The Secretary of State was Henry Clay. These two, Adams and Clay, were later ordered by Abdurrah Rahman Ibn Hisham to release Abraham Ibn Sori, the Prince of Slaves, in 1828. I got that book too. Abraham had been touring all over the West speaking with the chiefs about the laws that were being used to free him under the Moorish status. And in 1840, the government made many treaties with the Native Americans and land deals in Oklahoma, Lewis and Kansas. John Quitman and Eliza Tunick, the father and mother of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, among many other family members, were a part of these transactions and interactions. And after Lewis and Clark spy mission, the United States brought 59 European families in the Louisiana Territory under the guard of the United States Army, and the military poisoned the water supply with the intent of murdering off the original indigenous black population. They brought their school curriculums as they enslaved and murdered black populations, making claims they, the indigenous people, were fugitives from justice under constitutional law and were European property from Africa. The same way when I go back to the Herb Museum in Arizona and it showed how you took different other natives, cut their hair, killed a lot of them, buried them and all that, and made them go to these boarding schools. I'm telling you. However, the people did not consider themselves by nationality or status as Africans until after this was bred into them. The indigenous people in Africa did not originally call themselves African. They were of Temeri and were Moors, or Moors, M-U-U-R-S. This word African is a word of colonizer, just like Mexican and all that. There is evidence of this deceptive activity to falsify our status that is undeniable. It was a part of a plan to wipe out the indigenous history in America. The names like Tunick and Washita were turned into Turner and Washington. So then you had the wars with the Moors in 1752, the so-called French and Indian War. Wars were between the Moors, the Black Knight Templar family, and the Aboriginal Moors versus the British colonists and Great Britain. Remember, in 1776, the sons of Saint Temuri allied with the Moors to fight against the British colonists and Great Britain. Remember, in the Battle of Bunker, I already showed you that they whitewashed Oliver Cromwell and Peter Salmon out of it. It's a book called America in Black and White. This stuff is, the book is written by a European. Showing you all through history, talking exactly how I'm talking. And they lecture at college, and they all and they renowned and all this. Then when they see me and all that, they're like, wow, this, none, the other. They're like, well, you don't even have to do what you're doing. You know, but in 1776, the Saints of Tamari allied with the Moors to fight against the British colonists in Great Britain. Some of the British colonists infiltrated the Moors and the Sons of Liberty, aka Sons of Saint Tammany, in order to overthrow the Moors. They were people like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Andrew Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin. Moors titled Negroes by the United States. Statements from General Thomas Jessup. This, you may be assured, is a Negro, not an Indian war. And if it be not speedily put down, the South will feel the effects of it on their slave population before the end of next season. Major General Jessup, June 1837, in the American State Papers, Military Affairs, cited in Kenneth W. Porter, The Negro on the American Frontier, New York, 71, page 251 and 281. If the war be carried on, it must necessarily be of extermination. We have at no former period of our history had to contend with so formidable an enemy. No Seminole proved false to his country, nor has a single instance ever occurred of a first-rate warrior having surrendered. And throughout my operations, I have found that the Negroes, the most active and determined warriors. And during the conferences with the Indians, the chiefs, I ascertained they exercised an almost controlling influence over them. The Negroes ruled the Indians. And many of the original black inhabitants began to flee from the Western Territory. And many inhabitants sought refuge in Florida. And some went further west to California and mingled with other unaffected indigenous populations. And in 1860, a U.S. colonial named Duncan Clinch led an army into Florida to destroy what was called the Black Fort, or Fort Negro. Colonial Duncan Clinch led an army of Red Creek mercenaries and a U.S. Army unit into Florida to destroy the Fort Negro. It's a book called The Black West by William Katz. Katz records, and I quote, "The explosion killed almost all of its black and red warriors and 200 women and children. The few warriors were led back to the United States and slavery. In his initial orders, General Jackson had asked that they not only destroy the fort, but return the stolen Negroes and property to their original owners. But the question remains, did these aboriginals see themselves as slaves, foreigners, or property of the Europeans, as Africans, Negroes, or colored people? No, because in Duncan Clinch's report of the battle at Fort Negro, the first U.S. invasion in Florida, the information provides facts to the contrary. He says in his report, y'all, in Fort Negro, 1816 family, in the evening, a deputation of chiefs went into the fort and demanded surrender, but they were ambushed and treated with the utmost contempt. The black chief heaped much abuse on the Americans and said he had been left in command of the fort by the British government and that he would sink any American vessel that should attempt to pass, when I show you all this stuff in Thomas Jefferson Quran, and would blow up the fort if he could not defend it. The chief also informed me that the Negroes had a red flag and the English Jack was flying over it. So the question remains again, that must be answered, is were those former people slaves? What was their purpose for flying the two flags they were flying? Because slaves don't have no flag. And a flag represents what? A nation. What nations did they represent? There were cannons used at Fort Negro. And it's a well-known fact in history that the cannon was developed by the Moors in North Africa and Spain. Remember, the Moors had not only made the fire stick, as I mentioned earlier, but even cannon forged from wrought iron. Brothers, the two flags represented Great Britain and the indigenous Moorish Empire. They represented a nation of indigenous Moors. This is the same Islamic empire in the east that Abu Bakr, brother of Mansa Musa, was under when he brought 400 ships to America in 1311 AD. It is the flag that the chief was flying at the Black Fort in Florida in 1816. And was there a continuous Moorish connection from 1311 with arrival of Moors from the east that's documented in Africa and America until 1816. And the document dates from the present of contemporary Eastern Moors go far back as 700 AD. I shown y'all with the inscription found from the ancient Nevada school bearing the name of Muhammad as the prophet of Allah. I'm just telling you that, I'm just showing you history. I ain't caught up in nothing else. I ain't under no religious belief system. So I wanted y'all to hear that. I want to show you one more topic because I want y'all to have this. It's a book called George Washington and all this stuff. And George Washington slaves. And when I talk about Thomas Jefferson Quran, but that's George Washington. The little brother on the horse is a free Moor. All these people were just pinpointing there where they was at. I'm gonna go deeper with it. I just wanted to show y'all that pictorial. You see it when you see the young brother got the turban and all that. He dressed that. That ain't no slave. I'm trying to tell you. So I want to show y'all something before I get out of here. But the Moors of the West, who were misnamed Indians and Negroes, were also receiving a tributary payment from King George III and his colonies. And when they, the Europeans, no disrespect, did not pay their citizens, were held captive. In the book, The Life of Charles Thompson, The History of the Black Lenabe, Nanaco, Moorish, Shakam, or Shakam, Taduskun, is discussed, and I have that for you. The payment of the whites choosing of Charles Thompson to act as secretary in respect to the interactions between the Moors, misnamed Indians and Negroes, and the white British subject. Here are the records from the book, and it talks about on the 19th and all these payments and all that. But then you have the Treaty of Marrakesh in 1786, made between the Caliph Muhammad Ibn Abdullah, the Islamic leader of the Moorish Empire, Maghreb, and the United States of America. And the first page contains the seal and the introductory articles of the treaty made in June of 1789 and later translated in 1787. And the Arabic original and English translation protects all Muslims, Moors from the enslavement. Most of the 56 to 57%, according to Sylvian Diouf book, Servants of Allah, blacks captured in the slave trade were citizens of Islamic nations, Moorish nations that recognized the Caliph of the Moorish Empire. And the enslavement of these Moorish Muslims was a violation of national and international law. Moor by nature and nationality. The oldest hieroglyph of the name Moors is on the Temple of Luxor, Tamori, so-called Egypt, Kemet. The sources by Dr. Muta Ashby. The Neter Mary and the Kemetian teachings of the devotional love. God is termed Mary or Murray, beloved one. And all life came from the black waters of Nu, called space, or the neutron soup, or the Netura, or the Netahiru, which is where Negro is derived from etymologically. You can look at it that's why you need to have this stuff, so you can see it. It's no disrespect to no one, but I tell people, you can get charged with the stuff that you're supposed to know and be sitting looking like a goofball. The word that we commonly use, niggas, also comes from an ancient glyph, niggas. Go on YouTube and research the young boy in a spelling bee and have to spell niggas and tell me how it's spelled. And tell me the young boy who like, can you give it in a sentence for me? Can you give me the etymology of it and see the etymology of what he had to spell? And I bet you he ain't spell it the way you think. Or the niggas is the hieroglyph for the black people of Africa. And we were the first ones to call ourselves by this name. And we understood their cosmic biochemical meanings. Here is the glyph. You see the glyph? Y'all see the glyph? You see with your own eyes, right? So you can't be misconstrued. It's right in your face. So how can you deny anything? I tell y'all my people lost due to a lack of knowledge because we refuse to learn. With all due respect, the word Muslim is derived from the Arabic, Hebraic, ma, or ma. MAA or MAU, which stems from the Egyptian Sumerian MOU, which meant waters, and the root stem, the SALM, implies peace. So Musalam, 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 Musalam means a being who is derived from Alma and is a being of peace. The waters that we are derived from are twofold spiritually and scientifically. The first is dealing with the placenta and our origin from the waters of the womb of our mothers and the woman. The second aspect deals with a verse of the spiritual science from the Quran in Surah 21, verse 30. It's the most often translated. Do not to those who disbelieve see that we created from water, the Alma, every living thing. Surah 2, the splitting, verse 21 and 22. O nation, serve your nourisher and sustainer, the one who created you, and those from before you, that you may guard against evil. Verse 22, who made the earth a resting place and constructed the heavens and reveals revelation from the heavens, then brings forth from its fruits in order to sustain you. So do not set up rivals to Allah while you know. And the Masonic mental baptism of the blackamoor, the initiate into the universal Cyrus. I'm gonna show you this, and I'm gonna show you it right in the hieroglyphics. Look with your eyes. You should have eyes to see. This is the spiritual baptism. This is the analogy in the parable. I'm showing you this. So where we got to be done with the people playing. And that's what I tell people. I said, dude, we getting something that's missed. We gotta wake up, man. But Isis, Cyrus, spiritual law, and the Nephites, Cyrus, sea commerce lineage, were said to be weeping from the death of Osiris. All my European Masons know it's the Osiris mysteries. If you're a Prince Hall Mason on here and you don't know what I'm saying, you just have to be like, man, they don't teach this, because I know Masons that'd be like, oh man, that have to be your expertise. No, it don't. I know what's going on, and you do too. Cyrus B, execution of law. As is often the case with Masonic symbolism, the secret of baptism are involved with ancient Egyptian iconography and hieroglyphics. In the image, the gods are portrayed as weeping, as they are throwing drops of sacred water. And the Egyptian hieroglyphic, the MST, which looks like the threefold fall of water, actually means the dew, and portrays drops of water falling from heaven. The same hieroglyph also means instruction or teaching. And a 19th century Masonic scholar, John Simmons, believed that the sound values of Egyptian hieroglyphics were more closely linked with the Hebrew language, with the Coptic, as was widely believed. And when examining the hieroglyphics, the MST, he pointed out that the Hebrew IRE means to throw drips of water, to sprinkle, and to teach or instruct. The IRE, the IRE is related to the I in English and Latin, and it is the eye of Horus that is seen over the pyramid representing the great architect. And he further pointed out that this hieroglyphic is linked with the Egyptian baptism, with the notion of shedding celestial dew on the head of the neophyte. And this is with initiation. In support of his argument, he examined a plate which shown an Egyptian initiate scene where the god Horus and Thoth poured sacred waters on the head of the neophyte. And the one initiated in this way by water and fire was called in Hebrew Mesh, M-S-C-H-E, meaning something like begotten and saved or born again, a word relevant to the new state of the neophyte who has been initiated. And according to Simmons, the Egyptian hieroglyphic equivalent of this MSCHE, this mesh, or Moses, incorporated the image for dew, baptism, or celestial tears. And it was the anointing of a master. You see? So I just wanted to share that little tittle with y'all, man, so we don't get caught up in no crazy stuff. But I'm gonna show y'all this. Y'all know who this, y'all see that, y'all see who that is, don't y'all? With that fez on. I'm telling y'all, don't let nobody start playing y'all with it. They show the Europeans with the feds on with Allah, Islam on it. I get that because I told you they sons of Muslims. But show what where a lot of establishment come from. And then when I highlight things, when I talk about certain things, you be like, oh, let me give you a little, let me give you a little another. Let me highlight this picture before I get to the end because I'm about to wrap it up. Y'all see this picture? And everybody say that ain't David Fard in the back. I don't care who it is. Some say it is, some say it ain't. That ain't my whatever. Don't make me no difference. I ain't dealing with no mystic stuff. I can care less. You know? But let me highlight this. A lot has been said, but little understood of the man in the picture. One of the names he used was Master Fard Muhammad. He is the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and founder of the Nation of Islam. Before I proceed, I'm gonna have to show y'all the final call because they say they believe in the Bible. But they know it was tampered with and it must be interpreted by the true teachers and light seekers. I'm paraphrasing. But they have one law and it says since 1933, if I'm not mistaken, it says Fard Muhammad is the Mahdi or is the Mahdi or the Mahdi for the Christian and the Muslims. So they're saying he's the teacher for the Christians and the Muslims. I'm like, how? My Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught the science that I'm under and brought things to us, and they know it too, because Farrakhan gave credit to Noble Drew Ali doing Founders Day in 2015. But personal research has proven that he knew the Prophet. And I ain't finna argue with it. Do you know it? That ain't my argument. I'm just reading from the research, which is important to the discussion on law, masonry, government, Moorish, Israel, reparations. He moved secretly throughout America for 20 years. But see, people don't know that he was in the South too. They was down in the broken places of Mississippi doing the same thing. I'm gonna show y'all this. I'm telling you. 20 years before he started the open aspect of his work, according to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He went under many aliases during the time. Noble Drew Ali is witnessed as having a man teaching him named David Ford. We're not here to argue this. This is cited in the Moorish literature pamphlet of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This man is presented in the literature as teaching Drew Ali of the ancient architecture of the Moors and its Egyptian origin. This same David Ford was requested by Noble Drew Ali to sit over the Moorish Science Temple of America as a helping guide to maintain order while Noble Drew Ali was dealing with law enforcement issues in respect to the death of Claude Green, a former member of the temple. In October 1928, the same David Ford is pictured at a convention of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated in an interview with Buzz Anderson in 1971 that he was never taught what the D stood for in the name of his teacher, W.D. Fard. This was one of the names that Master W. Fard Muhammad went by. It is the same man, David Ford, W.D. Ford, that is witnessed in the 1929 Moorish Science Annual National Convention as saying he would bring America to its knees for the death of Noble Drew Ali and the attacks made on the Moorish Science Temple by local police in 1929. 1 month later, the so-called stock market crash and all that, blah, 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 blah. And many of the former Moors and Masons saw this man as a prophet and followed him to Detroit, where the Nation of Islam was born. In the beginning stages of the movement, he was known as Prophet W.D. Fard. So let me highlight this picture right here. I love all my Masonic brothers, but when they say they the ancient and mystic shrine, that's modern. Even my European colleagues, my Scottish Rite Masons will tell you, you off. I'm telling you. And then I got the documents where they showing you like you off. Master Fard Muhammad under the alias Dave Ford, picture under the left-hand corner. There are many Masons shown in the picture. The development of the Moorish Science Temple of America saw the influence of many high-degree Black Shriners, Masons, and secret societies, particularly the ancient Egyptian Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, started by Noble Ali Rofel Pasha and John George Jones in 1893, not no 1912. The secret societies played a major role in the events during the 20s and 30s in governmental changes. You know, with the respect of reparations and a new world order. And so when I showed y'all this picture of Elijah Poole Bay, they passed out ID cards in Detroit. I'm telling you. And they had that. They had 25 identification cards. So what changed? Why they stopped teaching people their nationality? You know, the book Message to the Black Man, Our Savior Hath Arrived by Elijah Muhammad. It gave the best the depiction of his coming and purpose. When we talk about reparations, and then they switched. You know, they switched. You know, the early years of the Nation of Islam saw the continuance of similar nationalizing processes that the Moorish Science Temple of America had initiated, making members officially not the subject of 14th Amendment subject citizens of the United States, but members, citizens of the Nation of Islam under the status of Muslim, you know? And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was well aware of these secret religious and Islamic laws of discussion and their connection to American jurisprudence as well. His work and mission to prepare us spiritually as a nation according to the law of Allah displayed his sincere desire for us to not follow the footsteps of the nation that was taking itself on a course of destruction. And in an article from the Muhammad Speaks newspaper dated April 11th, 1969, and entitled Clarification of Actions Taken by Messenger Muhammad Against Muhammad Ali's Action, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad states in the reference to these identity passes, the government of America has known this law of Allah, God, for many years. The law is to take the identity cards away from you. This is written on the identity card in red letters. Mr. Cassius Clay did not have one of these cards. It is good that he did not have one. Nevertheless, we carry the principle into practice. And I'm showing you an identification card of Muhammad Sharif, street number 671, Leland Street, city and state, Detroit, Michigan. Got the address and everything, because everything is original. Here you go at the bottom. Y'all see it? The ID card. Look. Y'all see that ID card? When people act like they don't know what I'm talking about, I say, yeah, because your only people is the one that's gonna do that. The religion does that. And they all have access to this. So you can't get mad at me. Even when I talk about what was the lawful authority to take such action laws based on, what knowledge did these individuals have about the United States? Foundational documents and the treaties attached to the Constitution and the lawful and legal consequences. In the truth, we are the practical benefits of this information. All of these people of discussion were either high degree initiates into the secret societies of the planet or supremely aware of the actions of these elitist groups. I'm telling y'all, Elijah Muhammad was a Mason. Haile Selassie was a Mason. Dr. Ben was a Mason. Carter G. Woodson was a Mason. Dr. Ben was a Mason. What are we talking about? With the ability to guide the poor into a position of power and self-reliance, Master Fard Muhammad taught his students that Honorable Elijah Muhammad about the secret societies and stated that the highest and most secret was a circle of black people, which Stephen Coakley talked about, the Boule. He, Master Fard Muhammad, stated that his father was a part of this most secret circle and that the circle of spiritual scientists had been primary influence in his Master Muhammad's preparation to initiate the wisdom that will save our people from the miserable conditions in America. And that's what I'm here to do today, to not get you caught up with all these charlatans, to give you the truth. It is these high initiates that have worked hidden away from the sight of the public according to a plan, and their marks and hints of activity are everywhere for us to see and examine. So remember the 4th of July, the Independence Day, that was a cosmic event, the day of the Kiefer. Listen to your brother as I close. The 4th of July, what the significance of that? What they know? That was the Kiefer. It was a cosmic event. Remember the Kiefer, the dung beetle, and this Cyrus over the head of Pharaoh. I'm telling you, all this stuff is in the hieroglyphics, and they try to take it from you. All the Masons they know is the Osiris mysteries. So when my Masonic brothers, I love y'all, but either you out here playing and you a court jester, or I feel sorry for you. No disrespect. No disrespect. I come with love. Somebody playing, and it damn sure ain't me. In ancient history, it is the astronomical day of the Kepher, the hieroglyph symbol of the dung beetle holding a solar disk. And the beetle was the sign of Cancer before the crab. And the astronomical and astrological sign of Cancer is from approximately June 21st to July 21st. Remember, the solar disk held by the dung beetle is not representing the sun, but the star Sirius. It's on July 3rd and 5th that Sirius is aligned directly with the sun and the earth. It's at the center of a 70-day period of disappearance from the heavens. This was a special spiritual time period in the ancient Moorish nation, Egypt, Timor. This astronomical positioning of the planets, the sun, and the stars at the center of the universe is a time of special spiritual forces that affects all events on earth. And it's not coincidental that America was founded on this date, July 4th, 1776. It ain't coincidental that Fire Muhammad announced the independence of the nation in 1930, for the Muslims. I'm just giving you the history. He was aware of the ancient science of life that deals with Cyrus mysteries that was reestablished by the family of Amram in the 18th dynasty of Egypt. All European nations know this, the Moorish Israel, the world's first monotheistic culture of the present age of history. What does a knowledge of the physical motion and geometry of the universe have to do with our concept of God, self, and its accuracy or inaccuracy, our subject and reparations? And in order to repair, we must discuss the knowledge of self, God, and go to its roots on all levels. And how can we identify the source of all universal motion? That's force. So I'm gonna stop right there, man, because I can show you all this stuff in history, but I want you to come to class. I want you to deal with your brother. I want you to get all your books and documents from me. I give you so much for small donations. And that's the last thing I wanted to show y'all. I ain't even gonna open it up. I'm just showing you something. I'm telling you, you have no idea. It's already written, and our own people playing. So thank y'all, man, for taking time to listen to little old me. I had an amazing time, speaking to those parents and just seeing the awness in those people's eyes and the access that I have. And like I tell people, I share my information. Hit me up, y'all. Seek me out. I love y'all. I'm trying to build this institution so we can have something. For people can come to the library. They can come travel. They can see all the beautiful things we have. They can see me open a real charter school. They can see things happen the right way. Why? Because it's a way that things to be done. And we don't want to take our kids from nowhere. We want our own institution. We want our computer labs. We want our libraries. We want our after-school activities. We want our spiritual house. We can have that. And everybody can support this with the money that we giving Uncle Sam. I'm telling y'all, and we can make a real difference. Those that's serious. So with that being said, everything that I showed y'all, I'm willing to give it to people for small donations. A workman is due is higher. Anything y'all need, y'all hit me up. Don't hesitate to say peace. Don't hesitate to say hi. But once again, man, I had a beautiful day today. I got a lot of emails from a lot of parents. I met a parent, her son is autistic and things, and that's one of my professions. So I'm probably gonna come back to Michigan in the summer and work with like 10 kids under my own organization. The parents wanna support me on their own. They like, no, we willing to pay. So a lot of things is happening because I get real results. I get kids that's autistic and nonverbal to speak. I get kids that don't want to be active to be active. Why? Because I become a best friend. And it's my profession. And kids that have that gift from the Creator, they know that. They smell it. I'm telling you. And anybody that know me, that know I work with autistic kids, I even have that in my family, they see how they all deal with me. They be like, how do you do that? And I'll be like, it's just something that you have to love. It's just like, an athlete that love what they do. You can't really explain it, but you see it. So when you see it, you know it's real. You know it's different. You know it's especial. And you see why those individuals gravitate to that, especially if the heart is pure. That's the biggest thing. If the heart is pure, everything else. And like I said, my heart is always pure. So once again, man, if anybody need anything, get y'all books from me. You know, I have ebooks. I'll build your whole tablet up, and I print and buy expensive books. I'll let y'all get this stuff for pennies of a dollar. And then you come to class on certain days when I lecture things. When I have Sunday school, I teach systematically. When I have adapt class on Saturday, when we have book club on Friday, you know, you'll be able to join us on StreamYard, ask questions, share this with people. That's what this is about. We're supposed to be building a panel, not debating and arguing. We're supposed to be illuminating all the bull crap and moving forward and let all the rest of that stuff crumble. It's happening now. It's crumbling as we go and as I speak. So all I be telling my brothers and sisters, man, is like, especially being home, we have to change the mentality. We have to change our mentality. We have to support something that's just not all hip hop. We have to reach back to our brothers and sisters that can really make a difference in our community. And just like voting, just like politics, I always tell people, what is the agenda? All my people, they Democrat. Okay, I say, but what is the Democratic agenda? Because everybody been voting in our neighborhood, especially in the raggedy city of Flint, Michigan, everybody Democrats. And then they don't want to hold people accountable. I say, so where all the money? You're supposed to audit people. You're going to see how money is misappropriated. You're going to see how money is mismanaged. We're just putting people in office as a popularity contest. So it's so much that we need to talk about. That's why our spiritual house and our teachings and our history and our libraries, we need that so we can be bringing up the next scholars, the next educators, the next politicians that understand who they are, that can deal in these ramifications of government, law, and civics and bring things back to a community and speak, be like, yes, she's been telling us this from day one. We're not taking advantage of this. You don't see the people in positions bringing this stuff back to people. All the grants, all the community development that can go on in the community to where people can take over their community and have their own sports teams, have own certain things in communities. This is the things that need to happen. And we can do that. And we don't have to complain because we're giving all our funds away. We're giving all our time away to just entertainment. And I'm telling y'all, we can make a big difference in this world. Real talk. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for listening to me. And I'll see y'all at another time. I love you. Peace, light, and illumination. And once again, y'all, whatever y'all need, get with me. And don't be a stranger.